another top story, believe it or not, this weekend. Senator Rand Paul is on the hunt still for a draft of the healthcare bill. And of course, we're going to get to that in a moment. But first, I asked him when he visited us here in studio about Attorney General's recusal.
Well, I think on both sides of the aisle, there's been a little bit of misremembering which ambassadors they met with. You know, we had someone on the other side of the aisle come out and say she had never met with the Russian ambassador, and then someone looked at her Twitter feed, and sure enough, she had met with the Russian ambassador. So I think it's easy to forget if you've met with people over time. But I think in this case, if I were looking at that testimony, I've read the testimony, he sort of asked, did the campaign have anything to do with the Russians? And his first impression was like, well, no, we didn't have anything to do with the Russians. That he wasn't thinking about in his capacity, I think, as senator. So I don't think he meant to try to mislead. I think he just honestly thought that that wasn't the same, and he didn't think through, oh gosh, I had a meeting on August 3rd. But who would try to obscure that when everybody knows your schedule is somewhat public and that it would come forward? So I don't really think that he meant to mislead. I think he just thought he was talking about the campaign, not his official capacity as a senator.
Part of his response was that the leaks are being hyped beyond reason. It was a little bit out of control. There's been the word witch hunt being used. Agree or disagree?
Well, I think there have been things that are very, very important that have been leaked that are felonies. So, for example, if I call a foreign leader on the phone, like Mike Flynn called the Russian ambassador on the phone, now I understand we may be eavesdropping on people because we think they're spying in our country, but the American that makes the phone call, presidents make phone calls to foreign leaders, the information that goes on in that conversation, I would think would be about as classified as it comes. And if we have people in the White House, and some of them may have been President Obama's appointees or career officials, if they're leaking the content of conversations between our leaders and foreign leaders, that's a very, very serious crime. And that's what many of us worry about, that you could end up having an NSA that collects so much information on us that we could be blackmailed by our own government.
Yeah, I don't think this is the last we're going to hear about it. There has been discussions and media reports that House members will be voting on a repeal and replace as early as this month. I want to know, have you gained any access? We saw you up and down the hills of the Capitol. Yeah. We saw you with a cart and a copy machine, and you were trying to gain access to see a copy of this. Have you yet?
I have not.
Question of the day.
I know it exists, but I have not been given access to it. And I guess that's what troubled us, is we read news reports that it was available, but it was under lock and key, top security clearance.
Is that really unusual?
Very unusual. And the fact that you could only get into it if you're on the committee, and you couldn't take it. Even the committee members couldn't take it. I think that's a big mistake. And I think once anybody in the public, conservative Republicans don't like sort of the establishment Republicans doing this, but nobody likes it, Republican or Democrat, if a bill's completely created in secret and nobody gets to see it.
What if they say, listen, we just want to get it right. We've waited this long. We want to get every detail. And what if they're looking at ways to compromise? Because we know you have a totally different proposal, and they just want to present it to the Senate in a form that they
I think it's worse than that, though. I think conservatives don't want Obamacare light, and we think what they're creating is Obamacare light.
What is Obamacare light?
I'll give you 3 instances that are in the bill that we object to. There's a new entitlement program. So if you don't pay any taxes, they're going to give you back taxpayer money, a significant amount, and it's going to be based then, its growth over time, on inflation, about 5% increase a year. That's a new entitlement program. So we're going
Those are the tax credits?
That's the tax credits. They're refundable tax credits. It's just not a Republican type of ideal. To me, it's a Democrat idea. They're trying to dress up in Republican clothing. That, to me, is Obamacare light. They're keeping the Cadillac tax. They're kind of renaming it and making it a little bit different. But essentially, if you have really good insurance, they're going to tax it. And then the third thing they're doing is they're keeping a form of the individual mandate. You remember everybody complained, all Republicans said individual mandate's terrible. They're keeping it, but instead of you paying a penalty to the government, you're going to have to be, and it's a mandate, it's a law, you're going to have to pay a penalty to the insurance company.
Your proposal is to just go back and vote on the repeal and just do a blanket, a clean
I have
slate.
Two proposals. One, clean repeal, and I think all conservatives will be on board. We did this a year ago.
But millions will be uninsured.
Let me finish. I'm for clean repeal, and the same day, a separate vote on replacement. I wouldn't put them together because there is some disagreement on replacement. So what I'm saying is vote on a clean repeal, everything, and then vote on a replacement the same day.
What if the repeal goes through and the replacement doesn't?
I can't guarantee what wins and loses. I'm just telling you the only way they're going to get repeal is if they want to get conservative votes, they're going to have to give us a clean repeal like we voted on before. But if you want conservatives to stay on board, you've heard from the House Freedom Caucus, that's 40 members of Congress. You've heard from 3 of the senators on our side. That is enough to stop them. They're going to have to negotiate with us.
With all these different bills and proposals, you're going to have people who say, listen, you're preventing progress. It's just way too much going on. Way too much.
I think we should get it right. I think we should completely repeal Obamacare. It's been terrible for the American public. Insurance rates have gone through the roof. Nobody likes it. We're suffering this downward spiral of it. It's a terrible, terrible system. Let's get rid of it. But then let's also say, we have different ideas on replacement. We're unified as Republicans for repeal. We're not so unified on replacement. Separate replacement. Let's vote on a couple different versions. But that's the way it should be in a democracy. Try to get people to come together for your ideas. But if they force us to have big government replacement kind of bills, Obamacare light on the repeal bill, they're not going to win.